lifestyle that we've chosen, the more the merrier, really.
I've got 3 wives, and I'm currently courting a 4th wife.
My heart is breaking in a million pieces, all this, and Christine's like, well, you're lovesick, and the only cure is a marriage.
Anybody uncomfortable, it's a little bit difficult for me. Janelle's or Christine's shoes. I know it would be hard.
Awesome. Meri's always been open to more wives. There are times when she would talk to me about it, Cody should get married again and things like that. And I'm like, no, he's not spending enough time with me. Are you kidding me? I don't see him having another wife. You're insane.
She's 30, and she grew up in the polygamous lifestyle.
I am a single divorced mother of 3.
We'll see how it goes. And visit, she lives about 5 hours away. Bye. Well, you'll like him, and I'm excited about it. It was really quite nice.
Good.
So, 20 years ago, I married Meri, and then 17 years ago, I married Janelle, and then 16 years ago, I married Christine.
The LDS or Mormon family, they quit practicing polygamy 120 years ago.
Being members of society who are moral and ethical, they have to,
I believe in marrying for love.
Or choose. God forbid that someone chooses their marriage for them. Ugh.
There are moments in television that don't just entertain us, they live with us long after the credits roll. And for fans of Sister Wives, the early years of the Brown family carry a weight that words can barely capture. These weren't just episodes of a reality show. They were raw windows into a family unlike any other. A family that, before the breaks, before the heartbreak, once made us believe in love, unity, and sacrifice. When Sister Wives first aired, the Browns introduced the world to a lifestyle that was often misunderstood, even ridiculed. 4 women, 1 man, and a house filled with children. It sounded like chaos. But what we saw was something else. We saw laughter over shared dinners, kids chasing each other across living rooms, wives supporting one another, even in moments of jealousy. We saw a family that looked us straight in the eye and said, "This is us. This is love." And back then, it was hard not to believe them. Pristine with her warm humor, the wife who brought light into the room even when she was exhausted. Janelle, steady and practical, keeping the machine of the household running when no one else could. Meri, the first wife, fiercely loyal, protective of her place, but undeniably the glue in the early days. And then Robin, the newcomer, who would change everything, but in those first moments, still represented hope, growth, and the promise of something bigger. The early seasons showed us moments that today feel almost sacred. Cody bouncing between homes, spreading his energy too thin, but still desperate to make every child feel seen. The wives, sitting in kitchens late at night, confessing their doubts and fears, but always circling back to the same vow, family first. But what made those early years unforgettable wasn't just the structure of their lives. It was the way they carried their faith in front of cameras, unflinching, unpolished. When Christine opened up about her miscarriage, the pain in her eyes wasn't scripted. It was a mother's grief laid bare. When Meri spoke of her struggles with infertility, it wasn't drama for television. It was the ache of a woman watching the dream of more children slip through her fingers. Even the celebrations carried an undertone that pulled us in deeper. Meri and Cody's 20th anniversary wasn't just a milestone. It was a testament to years of compromise, sacrifice, and determination. Watching them look back on their 2 decades together, you could feel the history in their glances, the weight of all they'd survived. It reminded us that whatever storms came, there had once been a time when love was enough. And Christine's pregnancy with Truly, do you remember that? The anticipation, the fear, the hope that wrapped around the family like a blanket. Every fan watching knew what she had lost before. Every fan held their breath as Christine went into labor, carrying both the joy of new life and the shadow of loss. That episode wasn't just about a baby being born. It was about survival. About proving to herself and to all of us that love and courage could triumph over fear. These are the sister wives years we can't forget. Because even if we know what came after, even if the fractures grew too deep to heal, these first chapters showed us what family can mean when everything else is stripped away. But here's the truth. Even in those moments of joy, the seeds of change were already there. You could see it in the way Robin's arrival shifted the air, and you could sense it in the quiet glances between Meri and Cody. The subtle tension between loyalty and longing. It's what makes these episodes so haunting to revisit. Because while they gave us warmth and unity, they also whispered of storms that were still far away on the horizon. Christine's labor with Truly stands as one of the most vulnerable and unforgettable moments in Sister Wives history. For all her outward strength, for all the smiles she carried through exhaustion, Christine was terrified. She had faced miscarriage before, and those wounds never fully heal. So when she agreed to go to the hospital, giving up her dream of another natural birth, it wasn't weakness. It was the strength to admit that sometimes even the strongest hearts need help. The episode unfolded with the kind of tension that makes you forget you're watching a television show. Christine lay in that hospital bed, monitors beeping, her body trembling not just with pain, but with the fear that history might repeat itself. Cody, usually so confident, couldn't mask his worry. His jokes fell flat. His voice cracked. For once, the man who seemed to thrive on endless energy looked small, helpless, waiting on fate to decide. And then there was the moment her blood pressure dropped. Alarms, quick footsteps, nurses rushing. For fans, it felt like the whole world held its breath. This wasn't reality TV anymore. This was a mother's life, a baby's life, balancing on a knife's edge. We could almost feel the tears pressing behind Cody's eyes as he tried to reassure her. For Christine, every second stretched into an eternity. Back at home, the rest of the family waited. 15 children scattered in a mix of anticipation and fear. Their laughter, their questions, their endless energy, it was all just a mask for the one question they couldn't shake. Will Mom be okay? And in the middle of it all was Robin. Still new, still proving herself, she stepped into the role of caretaker. She soothed the younger kids. She filled the silence. And for a moment, she wasn't the controversial figure fans know today. She was simply another mother holding a fragile family together. Looking back, it's almost chilling. Because even in this tender, selfless moment, Robin's presence marked a shift the Browns could never turn back from. Hours passed, pain ebbed and surged, and then, finally, life. Truly Grace entered the world. Christine's tears, the exhaustion etched across her face, the relief pouring out of her. It wasn't just a mother welcoming her child. It was a family being given another chance. Truly's birth felt like a miracle, a sign that even after heartbreak, life could still bloom. But if you look closely, you can see the undercurrents. Cody holding his newborn, but his eyes already drifting to Robin. Meri watching Christine's triumph, but weighed down by the quiet knowledge of her own infertility. Janelle, proud and supportive, but already calculating what this new baby meant for the household's delicate balance. And Robin, smiling through tears, knowing she was no longer an outsider, knowing that from this point on, her presence would shape the Browns in ways none of them fully understood. For viewers, this episode became a time capsule of everything Sister Wives once was. The tears, the chaos, the laughter, the unity. It showed us why for a time we believed in them. Why for a time we thought maybe this unconventional family could work. But it also whispered of the cracks that would one day split them apart. the subtle jealousy, the quiet insecurities, the weight of one man trying to be everything to everyone. Watching it now, with hindsight, feels almost prophetic, because Truly's birth wasn't just an ending to Christine's fear. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one that carried both promise and pain. And that's why these early years will always matter, because they hold both the joy we can't forget and the heartbreak we didn't yet see coming. After Truly's arrival, the Browns' household glowed with celebration. The children swarmed Christine with hugs and laughter, their joy a reminder that new life could pull everyone closer, at least for a moment. The wives rallied around her, showering her with encouragement and love. It was one of those rare scenes where polygamy seemed to fulfill its promise. More mothers meant more hands to help, more hearts to share the weight. But if you look closer, you can sense the quiet shifts. Christine, beaming with pride, also carried exhaustion in her smile. She had given so much, her body, her energy, her spirit. And while she was praised as the heart of the family, she was often the most overlooked. Janelle, calm as ever, stood back, practical and steady, but her silence spoke volumes. She was proud of Christine, but she also knew the household's balance was changing. Another baby meant another layer of responsibility, another adjustment to the already strained rhythm of their lives. And then there was Meri. Watching Christine cradle Truly was bittersweet. As the first wife, she had walked through decades of love and sacrifice with Cody, only to face the cruel reality of infertility. Every smile she gave Christine was genuine, but behind her eyes lingered an ache, a longing for a child she could never have. Fans watching could feel it, even if she didn't say the words out loud. The unspoken grief of what might have been hung between the joy of what was. And quietly, on the edges of it all, stood Robin. Still the new wife, still finding her place, she worked to prove her worth. She offered help with the kids, whispered reassurances, folded herself into the rhythm of family life with practiced grace. To some, she looked like a blessing, another mother's hands when the load grew heavy.
When Cody comes in the room,
She's gonna kick.
I go see if I wanted to be induced. Yes, that's how I feel.
Going from 3 kids to, 15, it's sort of a...
I still walk slowly.
For you? Is your back sore?
Nope, can't be sure, but it's red.
No,
It's in there somewhere.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to use a little bit of close?
Yeah, let's do.
You kind of got to get your contraction.
Let's get going.
Time.
Okay.
I'm wondering if I should go home, change my clothes, get your stuff, kind of tell everybody.
The baby might come faster than you think. I'm gonna have you load up what kids you can. And somebody's
The hope is that you can feel pressure when it's time to push. You can
Have
tell
this nice
them.
sensation in your legs. Oh, she's got the cutest little face too.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be shooting I'm after Mariah.
No, you're not.
But in those quiet days after the hospital, there was still tenderness. Cody holding his newborn with pride, the wives circling Christine in support, each of them, despite jealousy, despite insecurities, genuinely happy that their family had grown. For the children, it was another sibling to love, another bond to form in the crowded yet strangely intimate world they called home. And yet, even in the joy, you could sense the storm ahead. Christine, though joyful, would continue to feel underappreciated. Meri's grief over infertility would grow heavier, especially as Robin's children blended into the family. Janelle's quiet distance would widen. her focus shifting more and more to her work and independence. And Robin, once the outsider, would rise to the center, her influence deepening until it reshaped the family's very... That's why these moments matter. Because they are the before the cracks, before the bitterness, before the unraveling. They are the final images of the Browns as a united front, a family that once convinced us, even just for a while, that love could stretch across 4 marriages and still hold strong. It's haunting to rewatch now, knowing where the journey leads, but it's also what makes these episodes timeless. Because while the story would one day fracture, this chapter is the one we can't forget. It's the story that reminds us why we cared in the first place. In the days and weeks that followed Truly's arrival, the Browns carried on with the appearance of unity. But beneath the surface, the balance was already shifting. What makes these early episodes so unforgettable isn't just the love we saw on screen. It's the way hindsight allows us to trace the quiet beginnings of the fractures that would one day tear this family apart. Meri's struggle was perhaps the most heartbreaking to watch. As the first wife, she had always been central to Cody's story. She was the foundation, the one who had built this life with him brick by brick. But her infertility meant that, while the other wives brought children into the world, her arms remained empty. Watching Christine cradle Truly was a reminder of her own losses, both the children she never had and the certainty of the place she once held in Cody's heart. Meri tried to mask the ache. She smiled, she supported, she laughed when the family gathered around the new baby. But her eyes often told a different story. For longtime fans, those glances across the room were like reading the future. You could already sense the loneliness that would one day consume her marriage. Christine, meanwhile, basked in the joy of motherhood while quietly wrestling with exhaustion and insecurity. Her role as the heart of the household meant she poured herself into the children, the meals, the warmth of daily life. But Christine's joy came with a shadow, the fear of being overshadowed. Robin's growing presence unsettled her, even if she didn't yet fully understand why. Truly's birth had been a triumph, but it hadn't secured Christine's place the way she hoped it would. And then there was Robin herself. Fans often debate whether she came into the family as a unifier or as a wedge. In those early days, she was both. She offered help without hesitation. She mothered the children with tenderness. She spoke of her gratitude to be included. Yet, her bond with Cody was undeniable. The sparkle in his eye when he looked at her. The way his energy seemed to gravitate toward her. It was a dynamic impossible to ignore. Janelle, true to her nature, stayed steady on the sidelines. Practical, reliable, and often the voice of reason, she didn't get caught up in jealousy or rivalry. But she saw the shifts too. She knew Robin's arrival was changing Cody, changing the wives, changing the fragile balance they had all worked so hard to maintain. Janelle's response was to retreat more into her independence, focusing on work, focusing on keeping the family afloat in practical ways while the emotional currents swirled around her. These subtle dynamics are what make the early years of Sister Wives so powerful to revisit. On the surface, it was all joy and celebration. The birth of Truly, the laughter of children, the image of a big, united family. But for viewers who know what comes next, every smile feels like a memory frozen in time. Every hug is tinged with sadness. Every celebration feels like a goodbye to the innocence of the Browns before everything began to unravel. And that's the brilliance and the tragedy of this chapter. Because when we watch these episodes today, we're not just watching what happened. We're watching what would happen. The early cracks, the fragile smiles, the unspoken insecurities, they were already there, waiting for the right moment to break through the surface. It's what makes this part of the story evergreen. Because no matter how much time passes, no matter how many new seasons unfold, fans will always look back on these moments and feel the weight of what was lost. When we look back at the Browns in those early years, what we see isn't just a family. We see a living contradiction. On one hand, there was unity, laughter, and togetherness. On the other, there were whispers of division, cracks forming silently beneath the surface. That contradiction is what makes these chapters impossible to forget and impossible to stop watching. For every moment of joy, there was a shadow. Christine's triumph in bringing Truly into the world was also a reminder of her exhaustion and the quiet insecurity that followed her through the years. Meri's pride in seeing the family grow was matched by her grief over the children she could never have. Janelle's steady support was tinged with the distance of a woman who had learned to guard her heart. And Robin's kindness, though genuine, carried with it a shift that would forever alter the balance of the family. This is why fans still return to these episodes. They aren't just television, they're time capsules. They let us revisit a version of the Browns that no longer exists. A version where unity still held them together. Where children's laughter still echoed louder than the arguments. Where love, fragile, imperfect love, was still enough to keep the whole thing from falling apart. And yet the foreshadowing is everywhere. Cody, overwhelmed by the weight of being a husband to 4 women and a father to so many children, already showed signs of spreading himself too thin. His attempts to give equally often came across as favoritism. His effort to hold it all together sometimes made it worse. Fans didn't know it then, but these small cracks would eventually widen into divides too deep to repair. But here's the truth that keeps us watching. Even years later, those early days mattered. They mattered because they showed us something real. They showed us sacrifice, vulnerability, laughter, jealousy, forgiveness, and above all, love. Love that wasn't always perfect. Love that wasn't always fair. But love that for a time was enough to build a world around. That's why these are the sister wives years we can't forget. Because even as the family unraveled, these moments remain etched in our hearts. The sight of Christine cradling her newborn, the bittersweet smile of Meri hiding her grief, the quiet steadiness of Janelle, the hope in Robin's eyes, and the chaotic, unstoppable energy of Cody, trying, always trying, to be everything to everyone. This was the Browns before the breaks. This was the family that once convinced millions of viewers that maybe, just maybe, love could stretch wide enough to hold together a world most of us couldn't imagine. And maybe that's the real legacy of these years. Not the fractures that followed. Not the betrayals, the heartbreaks, or the separations, but the reminder that once upon a time, love was enough. Once upon a time, they stood together. And once upon a time, they gave us a story we'll never stop remembering. Because for all the years that came after, these first chapters are the ones that will always matter most. This has been Drama Unfiltered, where we don't just revisit the past, we feel it. Where we don't just watch the story, we carry it with us. And no matter how many years go by, the sister wives years before the breaks will always live on in our heart.